What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are again in front of the whiteboard. So like I said in the last video, we finished up the renovations at one of the units we were turning over. So check that out if you guys want to see how that turned out. But I also want to get your input. Do you like when I'm in front of the whiteboard or in front of my laptop, kind of like breaking down either a question or some type of analysis? I maybe for the analysis when we're looking at Excel, do the laptop. And when it's maybe easier, more writing, I'll do the whiteboard. But kind of just want to get your opinion and your input to see where you guys get the most value out of, and then we can just go from there. Also, before I start, if you guys have any questions, please comment below. Also, if you do want to set up some time with me, I dropped a link in my bio, in the YouTube bio. We can set up some time to just talk about maybe your deals. If you want to pick my brain on the deals that I'm going through right now, or the portfolio, underwriting, whatever it might be, that link I'll put in the description, but it's also in my bio on YouTube. So make sure you guys go check that out. All right, so today we're going through how I would invest $50,000 if I had to start all over again today. So what I would, or what you would need, or I would need. So you would need, well, first of all, $50,000. That's, I guess, number one, but just let me get a better marker here. Besides that, I would highly recommend that you have, so let's just say, we'll go with it, oh my gosh. So I would highly recommend that you have a 9 to 5 or some type of, so 9 to 5 work or some type of income source on top of the $50,000. So this way, if anything does go wrong with the property, you are not stuck between a rock and a hard place with having to sell the property at a moment's notice or have the bank take it over. So those are never great options, and honestly, never in the playbook. They should never be in the playbook. And you should always have some place where you can grab capital from or slowly get the cash flow from to put back into the property and save yourself if it ever comes to that. All right, so for the second one, I would highly recommend investing in multifamily. I know some individuals that have their own YouTube channels only invest in single family and are doing fantastic, but just from my experience, and again, if I were to do this today, I would go multifamily, like there's no questions asked. One, it goes just back to stability. And then two, you can also live in there. And if you couldn't afford, living somewhere else, paying that rent and going ahead and investing in real estate, you could live there and either live for free or live there for very low cost, maybe $300-400 a month. So that's what's great about investing in multifamily. Doubles, probably a good place to start. Maybe, if you get yourself a triple or a quad, then that's would be even better for cash flow reasons. But this is what I would recommend, and I would stick to this. Don't go into single family. Yeah, let's just end it there. Don't go into single family. All right, and then the next one would be value add. So that all the videos that I make, we talk about adding value to a property, and that's where you're going to see the biggest return and make the investment worth it. The cash flow is the cherry on top. I think I said this in a previous video, but you cannot rely on that consistently. But what you can rely on, and it's tried and true, is the area that you're buying in, the work that you do, and then the other sales comps in the area that you pull out before you buy the property. So you can rely on a lot of that versus relying on a tenant and having to chase them for rent, or maybe you had a boiler breakdown and then you don't have cash flow for that month. So value add, very important. I would say out of all of these, if you can't find a value add property, none of this matters because you're not investing in that property, or at least I wouldn't be investing in that property. All right, is $50,000 enough? Yes, it is enough. I was doing a little research prior to this video, and the average doubles in the US go for about like $447. I think they range up to like $550, but let's just say, excuse me, not $447, $475, and they go up to $550. But $475 was like typically the average. So if we'll just do, let's say, average is $475, and you take 10% of that, And you might ask, well, how do you get 10% of that? Well, or not 10%, but how do you put 10% down? Well, I'll tell you in a second. So that would be 47,500, and then you're gonna have closing costs on top of that. So yes, it is possible to start investing today with $50,000. The way I would do this though is I probably wouldn't put 10% down. I would go with an FHA mortgage, and I would shoot for 3.5%, because remember, you want some capital as just reserves, or if you're doing value add, which I recommend, you're going to need it for the renovations. So if you could put 3.5% down, then I think your down payment would roughly be 16,000. You might have to do the math for me there, but let's just say it's 16,000. And this way you have 34,000 left over to invest in the property and maybe have yourself a little bit of reserves. So FHA, I would not invest $50,000 in a property without going to FHA. Just because you're starting off, you have a constraint on capital. This is the ideal scenario. There are two things that you want to be aware of though. Put 3.5% down. You are going to pay the mortgage insurance premium, which is the MIP, and that ranges like a percentage, I don't know, call it 0.5% to 0.75% of the total loan, and it's going to be added to your monthly payment over the duration of the loan. And unlike the conventional loans where once you get to 20%, that would be taken away, your mortgage insurance. But for an FHA, if you put 3.5% down, it's for the life of the loan. And if you do 10%, I believe it's for 11 years. So you just want to be aware of that, knowing that it's going to be a little more expensive, maybe $150, $200 a month, depending on the loan size. It could even be less too, on top of your interest and principal. But if it gets you into a $475,000 house for $16,000 down, why wouldn't you try to make that work somehow? So yes, 50,000 is enough. You can go an FHA route, and especially if you're doing value add, going the FHA route with 3.5% down is going to leave you with enough capital to do the renovations. And we'll get to that in a second if you're questioning yourself if you can do the renovations or not. All right, so the 3 paths that I would consider, number 1 would be buying a multifamily home. So I would say 2 to 4 units, typical residential multifamily, and living in one of them or renting them all out and living where you currently are. That will probably cost more just because you have the expense of your current living situation. If you do move in, they call it house hacking. We'll just call it primary residence. So if you make this your primary residence, then you can honestly, if you're doing a 4 unit, you should be living for free, renting out the other 3. Or if you're doing a 2 unit, you could live at a very low cost situation. So that would be beneficial for you. You're saving capital, especially if you're working the 9 to 5, and you can stack some of that away. Maybe your down payment's a little more than you expected. You can stack that away for the renovations, or put that right into the renovations and move this project along so you can get on to the next one. So there's a lot of benefits for living in or making your investment your primary residence. So that's at least, that's probably my number 1 consideration besides adding value. That's actually number 1. So let's make that, making sure it's a value add. So that's number 1 is considering a value add property, and then figuring out if you can move in there or not. If you don't want to move in there and you want to keep it separated, actually just helped out a friend that said he didn't want to move in with his tenants, totally fine, but he made that work. And he's made it work using grants, which I'll talk about in the next scenario, which is, getting funding from family or friends. And they came up with oh my gosh, that's sloppy. All right, so yeah, family and friends, or let's just say government. So path 1 and path 2, of course, you're not tying anyone, to the investment. Number 3, I would say you definitely are. So let's just go through it. So you can ask family. So if they wanted to invest, or maybe you have a brother that is doing well and not like, 1% of the 1% well, but just has a little cash, 20, 30,000 aside, and maybe can split the down payment with you. Or if you have a friend that wants to go in and, split a 4-unit, then bring him on. I would just make sure you vet them, maybe your friend or, any partner that you're bringing on, to a very high degree, because you could get screwed. Yeah, so choose your partners wisely. And they're very helpful, but you just want to make sure you have a good understanding of what they're expecting from the situation. And then number 2 would be any funding. So if you go to your local credit unions and you're a first-time home buyer, there's definitely going to be grants out there, whether they're state or local or even federal grants that you can receive for down payment assistance or even renovation assistance too. So we're going to be hopefully leveraging a product we'll call, or organization called NYSERDA. CRDA. Okay. And that is a New York State agency that gives money to multifamily property owners that are going to renovate the property and bring it up to a more environmentally friendly standard. Yeah, whether it's HVAC, going to electric, or geothermal, or insulating the walls so you're not using as much gas, to heat the property in the winter. So hopefully for the 20 unit, we'll be leveraging the NYSERDA organization, but that is only for larger multifamilies. And if you're going and buying a residential, then you want to get something that's, of course, more fitting for that. But I'm just saying that there's a lot of grants out there. Do your research, look into it. They can give you a lot of money and help you to get your first investment property. So those are the 3 different paths that I would consider and how I would start. So number 1, you have to find the property. And I would do this through multiple different areas or resources. So of course, any like Zillow or Redfin, or maybe whatever you use, CoStar, LoopNet, any of those resources that you find properties with, then, of course, start there. Next would be getting involved with your community. So through maybe real estate meetups. There's always someone there that wants to sell their property. That's at least what I've experienced. So that would probably be, these are all top. You want to do these simultaneously as well. You don't want to just start with one and then transfer the other and forget about the next, the first one that you started with. You want to do this all, you want to do this as quick as possible, because this will eat up a lot of time. And if you're not careful, it'll be the most time-consuming part of making this deal. Real estate meetups, talking to real estate agents. And I think you kind of get where I'm going here. Talking to maybe family or friends that know of individuals that own real estate or are in property management. You just want to make it known that to your circle, to whoever you interact with, that you're in the market to buy a property. And then you'll start getting leads, and people will say, oh, you should reach out to this guy or that guy. He has a property. And that's going to be probably your best, most efficient way of getting a property soon. Like I said, this could take a lot of time, but you don't want it to take a lot of time, because you want to get into this investment and you want to go ahead and perform well and then get on to the next one. All right, next. So after you find the property, let's say this takes months 1 to 3. Find the property, close on it. That might move you into the 4th month. The next step would be the renovations. So this would be months. Let's go 3 to 7. Say it takes 4 months. So if you can do the renovations yourself, highly recommend it. You're going to save a lot of money, and you're at the end, when you refinance, that's when it'll really pay off. So in the moment, it might feel very arduous. It might feel very arduous, but if you can do the renovations yourself, that would be number 1. So self-performing the renovations, and then number 2, hiring it out. And if you are hiring it out, when you go through all these steps and account for the purchase price and the renovations, you should know if you're going to hire all this out from the beginning. So that way you can calculate the cost, so that way you can calculate the cost in the initial stages of finding this property, because you don't want to go down the line assuming that you're doing the work and then having to push out half of it to another contractor versus doing it yourself, because that's going to screw up this deal. Because at the end, you're investing $50,000 into a property. Maybe at the end, you're putting $75,000 at the high end after renovations. and you're probably going to make $20,000, $30,000 on it. It's not going to be life-changing money, but at least you have an asset that's going to appreciate. And if you refinance and hold on to it, it's going to cash flow and put hopefully money in your pocket every month. And then you can take that 70,000, or hopefully it's a little bit more, and put that into the next deal. So that's where this gets really nice, is that you're in this property that you did all this work to for zero money down. Some people call that an infinite return because the denominator is in the math is zero, or it's just undefined. And then you move on to the next deal and you do the same thing, and you keep snowballing it into your big portfolio, which some of you guys will probably retire off of. So that's just the important part of if you're going to hire a contractor. And then after you're done with the renovations, say months 8 through 12, that's when you're going to start looking for a lender or another lender. So looking for another lender to refinance with. And then also you're going to be looking for another property. It's a little sloppy, but you're going to look for another property too, because when you're done with all of this, the next thing to do, well, I guess it's if you enjoyed all of this and you want to make more money, and you made money on your current situation, your current project, then you're going to look for another property so you can do it all over again. And hopefully it's a bigger property. So if you bought a 2-unit, maybe you'd be eyeing up a 6-unit or a 8-unit and keep growing that portfolio. Another thing too is that you don't need to start off crazy. I know like Grant Cardone and some other investors, they say, well, go ahead and buy a 10-unit. If you have to partner with 5 guys, like just do it. I would stay away from partners if you can in the beginning. It's more straightforward. You get to understand how the property operates, you get your hands dirty, and then moving down the road, you can figure out what you were just good at, managing your own property. Maybe your partner has experience managing their own property, and you can compare and contrast, the different tasks that you're going to be doing, and then go from there. Versus jumping in both cold feet, not having the experience into a massive $1 million, 10-unit or 6-unit or whatever it is. So starting off with 2 and 4 is highly recommended. That's from my perspective. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have started off any other way. We were going to close on a 6-unit before we actually closed on the 2 doubles that we bought. And I'm glad that didn't go through, because that would have stretched us way too thin. And looking back at it, it was not a great situation that property was in. It was good condition, but just the tenants that were there and the turnover that they had. Also, they had some problems with the interior. So overall, it was a good thing that we were able to back out of that deal and not go through. So yeah, hopefully there's a bunch of other things I could talk about, like subject to seller financing. If you do, I'm going to shout out Pace Morby, subject to God. And he does a lot of great videos on that. So if you want to see his channel, just go ahead, look that up on YouTube, and he can explain that very well. I haven't done a subject to deal. We've tried to do that, but we never really came to agreements with the seller, so never actually came to fruition. Seller financing, we did, so I can talk about that in another video because I'm probably going over in this one. But so hopefully you guys got value out of this and you understood most of these topics that we discussed. But if you do have questions on any of these, please reach out to me via the link in the bio on YouTube, or just drop in the comments, if you want to talk to me, and we can set up a time to meet, go through what you're concerned about here, or maybe you're already in a project and we can talk about that as well. I'm not charging anything, so just make sure you click the link and sign up, and that's all it takes. So hopefully I get a few of you guys reaching out to me. Love to talk with you more. Also, if you guys have any questions, drop those in the comments as well, and I'll be sure to answer those. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. Take care, and we'll talk soon.